Welcome back to Mental Wellness Evolution. My name is Jeff. Thanks for being here. And this is part 5 in my 10-part series of the most important lessons I've learned on my healing and wellness journey. Lesson number 5 is getting back in touch with our emotions and the mind-body connection, okay? So as men especially, this is so important, guys, because, we've become so disconnected with our emotional states and not being able to feel comfortable inside of our body, and it's led us into our minds, which is all ego, thought driven, and those are the types of things that are leading us down the road to behavior where we're trying to get out of our heads because we don't feel safe inside of our bodies. So we go inside of our heads, and then when we don't feel safe inside of our heads, we start going towards the things that are offering that type of relief in the world, regardless of what that is, from sex to pornography, to drugs, to alcohol, to doom scrolling, to food, to spending money, gambling, whatever it is, okay? So it's a matter of trying to get ourselves back to a point where we start to feel the emotions that are inside of our bodies. And that comes with learning what each specific emotion tends to feel like, okay? As men, I think my psychologist used to say that men are only allowed to feel 2 emotions, angry and horny. And it's kind of like the truth is like, but the thing is about men is, we tend to our emotions tend to show up as anger because it's the most easily expressed emotion that there is, especially for us. It's kind of the one we understand. And a lot of times when we start to get underneath all that anger, it's actually sadness, it's actually depression, loneliness, a desire for connection, invalidation, all of those types of things. But it tends to show up in a very strong emotion because to men, anger is a strong emotion, and a lot of guys especially, we struggle, especially around women, being vulnerable with our emotions and what we're feeling inside of ourselves. But a lot of that too is that we just don't actually understand our emotions. We've never kind of been taught to go inside of ourselves, taught to how to deal with each specific emotion, what that emotion feels like, where it is in our body, and how we go about healing it, okay? So the first step, guys, we start to do is starting to get in touch with what's going on inside of our bodies, the mind-body connection, okay? Meditation is a great way to do this. We can do what's called a body scan meditation. It allows us to get inside and start to feel the emotions that are going on inside of ourselves, start to learn to feel inside of our body, start reconnecting the mind and the body. A great practice for this is the gym as well. The mind muscle contraction, that's a great practice for learning to be inside of our bodies. And those are great practices that we can get into as well. But we need to start understanding and identifying what each specific emotion feels like. And one important thing to understand, guys, is we need to stop labeling emotions, specific emotions, as good or bad, okay? I think one of the analogies I heard across the course of years was do not, think of your emotions like children, okay? You've got, say, 4 kids, I hope, not me, but, 2 of them are happy, one of them's happy, one of them's joyful, one of them's kind of angry all the time, and one of them's always sad, okay? You love all your children the same way, regardless, okay? We don't want to judge our emotions, because what happens when we judge our emotions as good as bad is when we have what's perceived as a bad emotion, we try to ignore it and get rid of it and fight against it, and we don't want it to be here. And the thing about that is the more you fight against the emotions that are inside of you, the longer they're going to perpetuate, okay? If you try feeling anxiety, try to get your mind to tell you to stop feeling anxious and let me know how that goes for you. It's probably not going to go very, very well, okay? So we need to start getting in touch with what each specific emotion feels like, where we feel it in our body. And understanding, guys, feeling and emotion are 2 different things, okay? The feeling is what's is going on inside of your body. When, say, you're feeling what you identify as sadness, it produces within you a feeling, okay? The emotion you identify with that feeling is sadness, but there's a little bit of a difference between the 2, okay? So it's getting in touch of what does each thing feel like? What does anger feel like? Where do you feel it in your body? Where does it come from? Where does it come on? Is it in your hips? Is it in your shoulders? Is it in here? And as we get to identifying these emotions, that becomes a little bit easier for us to work through them and move through them, accepting them for what they are, because we understand, oh, hey, this is anxiety, okay? This is what anxiety feels like. So I get tension in my back, I get tension in my chest, I get tension in my shoulders when I'm anxious, okay? So we start to get acquainted with our emotions, we start to learn about them, we start to get more in touch with them. And another thing that you can kind of do is you can give each specific emotion a name. I found people that have found this very, very useful online. They're like, okay, my anxiety is Frank. So when they start to feel anxious, it's just like, oh, Frank is here, that type of thing, okay? And then once we have to do that, guys, we have to allow it to happen. We have to allow it to move through. We have to allow the emotion to exist within ourselves. Again, the more we fight against it, the longer it's going to stay around. It's start to make friends with your emotions and understand that they're going to be a part of your life, guys. You're never going to not feel grief, sorrow, sadness. In a sense, we want to feel joy and those types of things all the time, but that's not realistic. That's not something that we can, that's some toxic positivity stuff when somebody's telling you that, hey, you need to feel happy all the time. Just focus on the good things. No, we need to start to embrace what we perceive as the bad things and allow them the space to exist within ourselves, because the more we allow them the space to be, the quicker they're going to start to move through us. Now, this is also where our mind starts to play into this, okay? Because our mind and body tend to work in tandem. So, when you're feeling a specific emotion inside of yourself, you're going to start to get thoughts that are consistent with your current emotional state. So if you're feeling anxious, it's going to be very easy for you to look in the world and see anxiety. If you're feeling anger, it's very easy for you to go in the world and find anger. That's part of the reticular activating system as well, that it starts looking for evidence of what's going on inside of you, okay? Now, what also is going to do is now your thoughts are going to start up. So it's easy. All of a sudden you start thinking angry thoughts. You start thinking random angry thoughts about some discussion you had with a friend back in the day, or, it starts off with an argument with your partner, and the next thing you know, you're mad at your boss, or you're mad at your coworker, and it just goes around and around, and we get stuck in what's caused, excuse me, it's very hot in my house right now. We go what's called in thought, feeling, emotion loops, guys. And this is where we kind of get stuck dealing with our emotions and our thoughts, and where they kind of work together and they can work against us, okay? So starting to recognize this within yourself. So as soon as this is why it's important, because as soon as you can recognize the feeling and what you identify as that emotion inside of you, and it starts to come up, you realize it, and then you can get ahead of it before your thoughts start to take over. Because as soon as your thoughts take over, that's where we start getting trapped in those loops. We start going in circles, and we go in circles. Again, like you feeling anger, you're going to think angry thoughts, which leads you back to the feeling of anger, which makes you feel angry, and you just kind of go in circles, and we go in circles, and we go in circles of thinking, feeling, thinking and feeling. Okay, so that's part of like learning to identify these emotions, because the better we get to understand them, the better we know what's going on inside of ourselves, then the easier it is to kind of step back, disconnect our thought processes from what's going on inside of ourselves, allow ourselves the space to experience the emotion, allow it to move through, and we carry on with our day. Otherwise, if you get caught in these thought, feeling, emotion loops, guys, it just perpetuates as the day goes on. All of a sudden you get ticked off first thing in the morning. Now you're feeling angry. You feel angry in your body. You've identified the anger, but you're still lost in your thoughts, and we just run around in circles. We run around in circles, and we run around in circles. Okay, guys. So this is important, guys, for so many different reasons. Like, we need to be able to understand that it's okay, that it's safe to be inside of our bodies. That sometimes, we need to be able to express these emotions. And that's why I encourage communities of men and finding brothers in the world who you can talk to these things with. Now, this is no disrespect to women by any stretch of the imagination, but I know the vast majority of men that I've met have had negative experiences being vulnerable with women, where they've shown these things to them and they've had it thrown back in their faces in the course of an argument or something like that. Again, this is not an admonishment of women. This is just a recognition of something that I've seen in men that I notice, okay? So when we find brothers who will accept ourselves in those spaces, who will give ourselves those space, because men need men like women need women, guys. We need brothers. We need people that we can go to that understand the experience of being a man. Being a man and being a woman are very different experiences. Regardless of what society tries to tell you, it's the absolute truth. Neither one is better or worse. They're different, okay? So when you have these guys, and I mean, I'm a blessed guy that way, where I have plenty of dudes that I know that I can go to in the event that I'm feeling something, that I got something going on, and sometimes and just get it off my chest. And then as men, guys, we need to offer our brothers space to express these things, to, say, hey, I'm feeling sad. Hey, I'm feeling anxious. Hey, I'm feeling the grief, or, whatever it may be, without judging them. And it's also important, guys, too, and especially men, we're like this with women in our lives too. We are natural problem solvers. We like to solve problems. That's just what we do. Somebody comes to us with a problem, we want to solve it. But the reality of it is sometimes, guys, we just need to learn to hold space for people. Reassurance is so powerful, Sometimes we don't need somebody to solve our problems. We just need somebody to listen. Because I think I have a buddy that said a quote. It was like, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we talk. And in these situations, it's definitely absolutely true. And if a brother comes to you and is expressing something that he's feeling within himself, you can even go as far as to asking him, like, hey, do you just need somebody to listen, or are you just looking to vent and get some stuff off your chest? or are you seeking some sort of guidance or wisdom or advice? And then we have that interplay between the two as well within that. Okay, so as men, guys, we need to take care of our brothers. Okay, like we need each other more than anything. Like there's an onslaught against masculinity going on everywhere in the world right now, and I know there's so many men out there that are feeling disempowered, disenfranchised, disillusioned, and all those types of things. But don't project that outside. Okay, we have the ability and the power as men to build our brothers back up, and not some like alpha macho type of bullshit, some like actually true, brotherhood and community and places where we can go and create that safety and that security within ourselves. Okay, now I said I might be incredibly blessed because I have several of these guys kind of in my life, so I'm very, very grateful for them. If they're watching these videos, thanks boys, I love you. But this is something we need to do, guys. We need to understand that we need to start getting in touch and understanding what the emotional states that are going on inside of us are. Because as we start to learn about them, and then we can maybe get down to some of the root stuff, and we start doing the work of bringing these through, we start transmuting that energy, we start bringing it out. And as a result, we start healing inside of ourselves. All the things that have gone on in the past that used to drive us nuts, they start to just kind of wash away. We start to feel better. We start to notice we're better. We start to grow. And it just kind of snowballs and perpetuates as we go down. But it's a thought or an understanding that, hey, we can't run from our emotions from our lives. And like that whole like, oh, I've gone through stuff too. We need to stop that, guys. We need to start being here for each other. We need to start looking each other in the eye and seeing each other as brothers and doing what we can to help each other move through those things. Because a major part of my growth and where I've got to as a past from the past has been the guys who stood beside me while I've gone through this process. And again, I'm very grateful for those. So if you don't have those guys in your life, I mean, I'm obviously here to offer guidance on this page. I offer personal coaching where I can help you do this, but also get out in your life and start seeking these individuals and see if you can find them. Get online, get in Facebook groups, start finding people that, can support you as you go about through the journey, because it's challenging, guys. And there's some stuff that, you might need a therapist or somebody to, help you, guide you through some of these things. I mean, there's no shame in going to therapy. I've seen counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists in my life. No judgment of any man that needs to go to therapy or wants to do it. But I also want to offer as much wisdom as I can and give people that value, because I know there's so many people who could never afford to go to therapy. Like therapy has become such a rich man's game. I mean, at $200 an hour, most people can't afford a psychologist. So we go to the internet. Go start seeking out guys who've been through similar experiences. Go start following them on social media. I've learned so much from Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. There's information everywhere. And it's funny, like when you start reaching out in the universe, all of a sudden you get a little bit of guidance and it almost starts dropping into your laps, okay? So start getting in touch with your emotions, guys. Start finding guys who allow you the space to be yourself, freely of what's going on inside of yourself, that free of that judgment, that inspire you, that push you, that help you to deal with some of those things around. And if your partner is there, absolutely too. I'm also not telling guys to not go talk to their partners about stuff. That's an important thing too. You need to have that safety and that security in your relationship. That's an important thing. And it's a very good sign of a healthy relationship when a man can go to his woman, his partner, with those types of issues, or other man if you're in those types of relationships, obviously. But we need to start doing this. We need to get back in touch with our emotions. We need to start working on feeling safety in our body. Because if we just repress, eventually we just blow up on somebody who doesn't deserve it. Because that is eventually going to manifest as anger in your life. I promise you guys, because that's the emotion that we all can easily express. But it's oftentimes, I said, it's the stuff that we push down that we need to start bringing up and allowing ourselves the space to feel, bringing it up consciously when it happens, recognizing it, getting in touch with what it feels like, where it is inside your body, allowing yourself the space to move through it. It's okay. You're going to be safe. You're going to be secure. Finding those communities, finding those brothers, getting back in touch with that aspect of ourselves. Okay, guys? So lesson number 5 is getting back in touch with our emotional states and the mind-body connection and getting back to safety inside of our bodies. Okay, guys? So if you need help on this process, again, you can always reach out to me. I offer personal coaching. I can offer, services that I'm going to help you and I can guide you through this process. Obviously, I encourage everybody to go out and look at the social media platforms and the things that I've encouraged you to do, because I've learned a tremendous amount of knowledge from there. You can find me as a coach at Re-Mind Yourself. on Facebook and Google, and Remind Yourself Coach on Instagram, and _Mind Yourself on TikTok. So that's lesson number 5, guys. So thank you all for being here. I hope you found some use in these videos and are finding them useful, and some knowledge and wisdom that you can apply to your life. I apologize, it's extremely hot in my house because I'm cooking right now. But thank you again for being here. We will catch you all tomorrow night for talk number 6, okay? So have a great night, guys. We'll catch you all tomorrow night. Peace.